Hey guys. Hey, Paul, good day. Mark, hello. Bill, good day. James B, hello. Rich, good day. No sound? Got no sound? Tea and biscuits, hello. Do I have sound? Don't know. Now there is. Probably before I wasn't actually saying anything. That might do it. It quite often does. That's how it is. I don't know if I've done much very productive this week. There you go. Very little productive. Adam's been on my case about running an engine tonight, and it's not going to happen because it just didn't happen. Sorry. Probably means going outside, and going outside didn't feel like a real good idea and all that stuff. Sorry. Bit slack. What have I done this weekend? Oh, it's a bit sort of ordinary, Matt. Rona's not much fun. I've escaped it. A bit of a sneeze today, but I'm not sure what that is. What happened with my weekend? Don't know. There wasn't any foundry stuff. It was a bit quiet actually. Bit quiet. I did absolutely nothing at all in the sign shop. Oh, I did do some mock-ups for some stuff. That's progress, I guess. A little bit. Went down to my mate John's and picked up the flywheel for the Marshall Portable. That happened. So if we wanted to go outside, which we don't, which we've already discussed, but if we did want to go outside, there's a flywheel and crankshaft in the back of the van. The lighting for the flywheel and crankshaft in the back of the van is really quite atrocious. So we'd go out and have a look. I think I lent Joe my rechargeable lamp. Don't know what happened with that. Have to find it. So anyway, did that. Been 3D printing. This is a gift for someone for Christmas. Poor printer's been going flat out. So there you go. As you can see, recognisable bits. And a stack of these. The giant Lego bits, just a Christmas wreath, is actually what it is. Yeah. So over the weekend I printed 6 of them. There is a new LBSC book out, David. Eddie's written it. He's done a good job of it, I believe. I haven't actually got one yet. I haven't seen one. I have every intention of ordering one in the next week, but it hasn't happened yet. Looks like a good video, a good book. I've got 2 books from the UK from friends who've written that I'd really, really like, but it hasn't happened. Neither of them have happened yet, so it will. So basically there's some Lego flowers. All clips together like that. Oh, good stuff, David. Give us an idea what it's like. Eddie's a pretty good friend, actually. I think one of my photos might actually even be in the book, but I'm not sure about that. Haven't seen one yet. My picture of the blue plaque at Pearly Grange, or Pearly Road. I think that might be my picture, but I'm not sure. Don't know if he used it or not in the end. It was probably fairly muddy because it was sort of a second hand when he got it. When I got it, really. But anyway. So that's a project. These took about 4 hours each. The Prusa firmware makes these pretty quick. Hey, Stuart. These I'm printing with support. They probably hardly need it. They're well designed. They probably don't need it, I think. But I'm printing them with support. So this is taking about an hour. And 4 of these flowers, 3 of these flowers took about 4 hours. So there's a bit, someone was asking, but there's a bit of work in it. There's 6 of these, I think. And there'll be some of these, and there's some, I think 4 white flowers and 4 yellow flowers, something like that, with dots and some yellow ones and white ones and orange ones. Anyway, present for someone. Just messing around with that. So the printer went most of the weekend. Watched a little bit of YouTube, not a lot. I noticed there's a ClickSpring video out today, which means there's probably a content back on Patreon. I'm not a Patreon supporter of ClickSpring because he kind of aggravates me a little bit. But feel like I'm probably missing out, which is not good. But anyway, we'll follow along and see what happens. See if it's worth joining up again. Rustanox, good day. There's a build video this week. It was quite a good build video, and I'm glad they've got the power back on and stuff down there. There was a Mark Shed Talk, a couple of Mark Shed Talk videos. I think there was a Rustanox video. There was a Nigel from Go Create Hobby Machine Shop video too. Saw that, I think. Diafiler video. That's it. I stopped on the way home and bought some supplies. I was a couple of drills short in my Imperial set. I still am when I look at it. But I'm not sure how many of them actually put back in the box. That's a bit of an issue, because I know that I had a new drill there. But anyway, we've got some upgrades on that, and a couple of metric ones too that were missing. There's the 732 one that I couldn't find. Might put that away. So this workshop's looking a bit lived in, because for most of the weekend I built this. Kevin, good day. How many people am I a patron for? Not many, actually, nowadays. A couple of creators that... I don't know if this stuff's public knowledge, I don't know, but there's a couple of creators that are sort of a little bit not mainstream that I really enjoy, that have got nothing to do with anything that I show on this channel. And I support Stefan. I support not many, actually. There's not as many as there used to be. Good vehicle for Joe. I don't even want to see. I'll forward that to him in a minute. I can't afford to do Patreon either, really. So Roomy Joe will look forward to another. He has been looking at the select vehicle choices that you send him, and I'm not sure that it's doing him any good, but anyway, I can't afford to do Patreon either, and a lot of them I don't do. I throw $1 at Stefan every time he releases a video, and that sort of all adds up, and I feel a bit responsible there because I made him install it and make it work. Got a bit serious and made this. Which is the fuel mixer for this engine. That's actual real progress. It goes in under there, which feels like real progress. This has got a choke. Look at that. How cool is that? Volkswagen thing. You're going to get him to get a Volkswagen thing? Don't think that's a good idea. Volvo 740 GL is probably about his speed, but anyway. It's not German either. So this has got a mixer, choke on there. It's got a needle valve with a nut and a flange. I haven't soldered this flange on because that's got to be drilled to match. This has got to be drilled yet to match that flange. And I'm really reluctant to pull this head down any more times than I've got to. So I'm probably going to make sure I've got all the other bits to put on it before I do that. Because it's not much fun. It needs a copper pipe in the bottom there for delivery. Now, needle. I'm going to undo this. It's actually tighter than I thought it was. Yo, Peter. Sorry, I'm unscrewing this. It's a lot of threads. Still going. There we go. So that's got a thread through the end of that nut. It screws in there. The chamber in the middle. I'm not blocking the sound too much. That's just a sewing needle. Focus. There we go. Just a sewing needle, Kevin. Loctite it in a nice neat fit hole. and I put a thread on the end of a piece of bar and then knurled it nicely, or reasonably nicely. I don't know how good knurl it is, with a lock nut. So that's all I've done, and all that does is seat in a 1/16 hole. If we unscrew that, probably there's a hole there that could do with a bit of a scrub or a wire brush or something to clean all the crap out of that. Might do that at some point. It wants some sort of a brush to clean that out. Don't know. I've given this a good wire wheel up at work with Scotch-Brite brushes. When I'm looking for a needle and I ask someone, right, they're just there under the mirror. Remind me. Thank you. So that's got a number 60 hole right through that. This is done sort of right to the drawing, so hopefully it works. I do believe that this is a pretty nice running engine. So, hey Randy. So hopefully down to the drawings this will work. So this is just basically a nut. It's 14¼ 32 on the outside and 6BA I think on the inside. Kevin, how's your engine going? What's the project? What's the latest on that? Hopefully it's the first IC engine I ever built that runs. I built another one that ran momentarily before it wore out, but that was many years ago. I'd very much like this to be the engine that I build that runs. And this has got a pretty proven sort of a track record of actually running, so we might be lucky. So that's that bit done. It's got a little notch there so that it doesn't, you can see that. So the choke only goes from there to there, which is really nice. Open and shut, seems to work. Might be all right. So that's some actual progress on engines, which is pretty amazing. One of these drawings here, which one is it? Not that one, that's the governor. There we go. So that's the drawing, which is a little bit less than to be desired, to be honest, but shows how it all works inside. That's awesome, Gavin. It's got a little fuel tank there, which is pretty basic. And it doesn't show an on-return valve between this outlet and the inlet on the carby, but it says check valve in the line. That's all the information we have there. So probably inline check valve of some sort. If I can find one off the shelf, it'd be really nice. something that actually works laying down. I don't know. Might have to actually solder one on the tank, or put a pickup in the end of the tank. I don't know yet. It wants to really work out of the bottom of this. If you're going to put this tank on the same level as the engine, I think it needs to suck uphill. So maybe we put a little check valve on here. Don't know. Anyway, working on that. This part's done. The muffler's done. It's on there. And we've still got to make a fuel tank of some sort to get a bit of 1 3/8 or 1.5 or 1.25 or something. 1 3/8 is 35mm. It's an odd sort of a size. I might have a bit 1.5. More likely to have a piece of 1 3/4 that's 3 inches long. Make a tank out of it with a little filler and a check valve on it and a couple of brackets. So that's still got to be done. That's all done. On this drawing is the wiring diagram too. That's about all the building instructions that come with the drawings. That's it. So that's done. These bits are sort of ready to cast almost to get there. As far as progress on this, it's a conrod. Could do with a bit more of a sand up and another coat of high build filler, I think. High build primer. But this has got a bit of paper stuck to it off the cardboard box. This new high build primer is not as good as the old one. But there's the conrod. There's enough in the machining allowance to split it. Right. And there's the rocker, which I think goes here somewhere. Don't know whether it goes that way or that way. Anyway, probably goes, I think it goes that way. Not sure. And this bit here needs to be done as well. This is the yoke that goes on the inside of the flywheel here for governor. I've done this in one piece so it casts nicely, and then it's got a groove cut in here so that there's 2 separate or 4 separate fingers. And you can machine this down and bore it so that it just fits on the side of the flywheel with 2 bolts. So that's progress on that little engine. That's actual progress. So pretty excited about that. Something we did. Actually made some progress on a model engine. I do remember those orange flashing lights. Haven't seen one for years. I've got some red lights here, but they don't flash. And orange ones, like council lights, but they predate the electric ones. With the timers and everything in them, they were a bit flash, some of them. So, next job with this, get these cast. Might be this next coming weekend. I don't know. We'll see how I go. See what happens. But it'd be very nice to get. It's going to be a big weekend if I do that, and I'm not sure I'm up for it. And 2 weekends without actually making any revenue at all is a bit of a push at the moment. So we'll see what happens next weekend. But be nice to get these cast and some bits for Mark and some bits for Dan Elston down in Melbourne. Fowler roller bits at some point. And then there's a little bracket goes on here, which goes under those 2 bolts, like so. Something like that. Don't know how to make this. I don't think it'll cast particularly well. I'm probably going to cut a bit of brass there. I've been thinking about this. probably going to machine that out of that bit of brass. It should be about the right size. I bore a ring and part it off and cut it and drill it. Probably before I do any of that, just make the ring size and then machine this and the dividing head in the right spot so that it's got a groove in it. And then just find a bit of 3mm 1/8 brass and sit in the groove and sort of solder it. It's probably the best way to make that out of brass. So that's the rocker. Next job. This needs to be done, which is the outside. I've been saying for weeks that needs to be done. I did go as far as to set one of these up in the forge drawer and discover you couldn't drill them that way. It's just going to have to be done out in the mill. Not a big job, just got to come and find time to do it. Fill a phone box with them. They're basically drilled 10mm for a pin, both of them. And then one of them's machined to 5/8 wide or something, 16mm wide in the middle, with the ends missing, and another one's the opposite so that it sits over the top of it and there's a pin goes in there. And then there's another pin in each end of these with a cross hole and a thread, and a nut and a spring to adjust the distance apart. If that makes any sense. Then there's a couple of brass blocks with stones cemented in them, which screw in there, that are interchangeable. So it's quite a good little tool, and I think it'll come up nice, but I've got to find time to do it. So that's another job, and then there's the internal lap, and then we can start messing around. If anyone's even interested in model engines nowadays, start messing around and machine this and hone it to fit that cylinder, and machine it to length and cross drill it for the remit for the con rod. Like so. And that's all the tricky bits. Once we've got compression, I've got a reasonable amount of faith, maybe, in my bearings and my crankshaft, and oilers and gears and things. I think I've got most of that pretty good. I know that this is concentric to this, and that's a problem that I had with the Stewart 400, was that this crank ended up not quite exactly in line with this bore because of hardness in the casting, and that was a bit disappointing. And at some point, I'd like to probably machine the whole bearing off and drill it and put a decent press-in piece or shrink-in piece in steel that's actually the right job for the actually parallel and all that sort of stuff. And I think that would get us a long way towards getting that running. I think that's the main problem with that. Anyway, one of the major problems with it is that there was a hard spot in the casting, and this bore has gone off center. Anyway, yeah, this head at the moment is pressure testing up okay. If I take it apart, which I'm reluctant to, but I've got to, I'm not sure whether it's going to go back together as nice. Hopefully it does, but it doesn't take much to stop it. So when I pull it apart, I want everything else made ready to go on it, and all you've got to do is pull it apart, put it back together, probably put a rubber bung in this end and pressure test it. And say it's not coming apart ever again. Piston should go in through the back, and then we can put all this together and get it going. So if anyone ever tells you this is an easy job, it's not, but we've made pretty good progress with it. We've got a fan. If it actually blows with air. In fact, I'm not feeling like it probably blows very much air. But it's got oiler on the end of it, and bolt, pin, that's done. Muffler's all together. It's pretty good. Actually screws in nice and square and straight, which is good. It's vertical. Got this little pin made for the rocker, and I've got the cam all done. Timing gears are in. This governor yoke moves nicely. It's a matter of making this bit, bolting it on, making the two rocker arms that go through the two arms that go through here for the weights, come out on the outside with springs on them, and a trip pin in here to hold the valve open, and then it's just a rocker arm. So there's not a whole lot. Is this from a kit? Yeah, sort of. Bit of a story. This set of castings is probably nearly as old as me. If we put this, look at this drawing, they were drawn January 75, which is older than me actually. It's 50 years. And I'm almost 50. Not much older than me. So Paul Breach in the US made this set of castings, and quite a big range of castings actually they did. They did a very pretty little olds about this big, and then they built a bigger one of these and a stovepipe domestic and some really pretty engines actually. And when I was growing up, these engines were the ones that were on the back cover traditionally of the gas engine magazine. They had a model maker's corner, and quite often there was a page of pretty little model engines that people had made back in the day before the internet, and they were all a bit sweet. And this was a common one, and I always thought, well, I'd like to build a Breach engine. A couple of engines I'd really like to make, and this is one of them. The other one I'd really like to make is the Allen Foundry RLE, and I've got that kit as well. I've got an original one of them as well in the cupboard here, and probably, I'm not sure who's going to last the longest, but either Graham Corey from Allen Foundry or Myford Boy, one of them's going to shuttle off at some point, sorry, but I'd like to get both engines finished before they do, so I'd like to get them done, because I've got a Myford Boy engine as well. But this one I picked up at the Summer Bash on the Swap Meet in 2019, I think. Bought a box of bits, which all it was a box of bits. Someone had bought the cylinder, like 10 thou undersize. None of the other castings had really had much done to them. I think they machined the bearing caps and sort of put them in place, but they weren't actually drilled. The flywheels were sort of machined, but not bored, thank goodness. And there was there was a crankshaft, but it was undersized and didn't really work. It's things like just bits and pieces like these are the main bearings that he had, which just sort of oversized for the drawings and completely oversized for the crankshaft that was with it. Just assortment of bits like this one. I have no idea what this was going to be. I think it was going to be the cam. Yep, cam written on there. Made a decent cam, which is actually a CNC component. It's the only real CNC component in this. Joe did that for me, which is very nice. And he also cut this fan blade, which was saved a lot of work. It was bored. Nothing else was. So I've had to work around the bore and a few other little jobs, but not much else was done. I got in last year, was it, and had a bit of a go at it and got it to this stage. I've got new valves, springs. I think the springs are pretty good. I don't know, that might be a bit heavy still, this little intake spring, I don't know. The exhaust spring I think is very good. I've pressure tested the head. I've made the spark plug. Right, which may or may not work. I've made the muffler. I've drilled and tapped a lot of holes like these ones, and then I've machined this to fit this, and then I've machined the base to fit this, and I've machined the conrod and the gears and everything, and I've made keys and fitted the flywheels, all that stuff. It should sort of all work. I'm reasonably confident with this because I know that there's a lot of them that do work, and I've not seen a lot. I've seen a lot of write-ups on building them, and I've not actually seen too much that says that they won't work. So if you build it to the book, it should work. And this is the mixer that goes on it. Few levers and bits and pieces. They're just basic little bits. This has to be made. There's another one there. That's the little rocker arm that goes in there and works in there like that. That's got to be steel or brass or something. I think they probably made it out of brass. I might get one of them cast too. I don't know yet. It's probably not a big deal to make one up out of steel. Yeah, I'd like to get this running. There's still the spark arrangement to go on the side, which has got a tungsten points on it. Let's have a look at the rest of the drawings if anyone's interested, hasn't already seen them. They're pretty basic really by today's standards for model drawings, and they're kind of nice. But here we go. So crankshaft, we've done that. Valves, done them. There's the rocker arm. Push rod assembly, not complicated, got most of the steel for that. Cam details and the timing gear. The other timing gear, cam gear shaft, it's all done. The governor weights are still got to be done. The governor yoke's done, and that's that piece there that we're working on at the moment. It's got this arrangement here, which is a spring-loaded tungsten contact and another one on the push rod, which is probably a good, reliable system. So, matter of making that up. It doesn't look too obtrusive, really, which is all model engine ignition systems are a little bit of a compromise as far as bend scale. But this probably looks all right. It's this piece here with the rod down here and the contact points on here and the spring. And then this one's spring loaded so that it releases a bit with it and then all of a sudden it snaps apart. So that gives you your dwell as the weight of this spring, I think. And then it's adjustable at the back. And there's 2 bolts that screw on the side of the block. So that's how that works. There's a lot of small stuff. There's a fact sheet on making a one-piece crank. We've done that. It's probably very useful information, actually. Soft soldered brass bar in to prevent springing. Saw a drill out the areas in the middle and turn the drawings and cut out the spacer bar. So that was a good way to make it, and it worked quite well, and I've got a nice little crank. There's a spark plug drawing. How to make one of them. That turned out pretty good too, I think. Hopefully, I'll make another one if it leaks or if there's problems with it. There was a suggestion on one of the forums that it could be a fraction longer, which is probably a valid point. We'll see how that goes. This is the air-cooled version, which is what I've got, which is this cylinder and the pulley and the vertical exhaust pipe, and the fan bolt. So all those bits are made. The other drawing, and these have seen a lot of workshop use, and not just in my workshop probably. So there's the base, and the water-cooled version is really pretty, but I haven't got that casting. There's the conrod piston. Cylinder head with the press-in valve guide, and I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. I spent a lot of time on this, get it to seal and stuff. There's the bearing caps and that rocker arm bracket and a couple of flywheels, how they work, and a couple of keys. Most of these bits are made. Still got this one and this one, which is the conrod and the piston, and this one here. That's all that really needs to be done. Oh, and this little pin here, I haven't got one of them, which goes in this bracket which holds the rocker on. So there's not much more to do, to be honest. Pretty keen to get it going. The labour intensive bits for it are cylinder lap. This is 3/4 ball. This says 750 plus or minus, plus 1 thou minus nothing. So it's probably a fairly critical dimension, but talking to a few people who know stuff say that whatever you've got, just make the piston to fit it. Well, do I think it'll be completed this year? I'd like to have a go at it, actually. I'd like to get in and make some progress on it now. There's other things out of the way. At this point, priority is any painting work that comes in on my weekends, to be honest. Speaking of which, anyone that wants to buy this really awesome sign, it is up for sale still. Everyone needs this. I think it's borderline excellent. It's definitely there if anyone's interested. I don't know if anyone really wants to buy a sign like that, but it's a few little nibbles and then everyone went cold. But it is there. Ship it in Australia. Probably ship it overseas if I really needed to, but I'd rather not. Anyway, finishing's really nice, and I don't get enough finishing done. But it'd be very nice to get it at least to the pro stage that I can see if I can get it running. I've got harbouring no beliefs that the thing will be easy to start the first time. I'd like to have compression on this before Christmas. Let's say that. I'd like to have compression, which is basically getting the piston in. Because this was bored by the previous owner of these castings, and he hasn't done a bad job. It's a nice parallel bore, but it is about 1/8 thou under, something like that. To sit down and actually measure it. But it is a fraction under size. And he didn't do anything else. Probably that would have been the last thing that I would have machined on this after everything else was square and parallel, but he didn't. So what I had to do was set this up on a mandrel and bore there, machine the outside ends and all that stuff, and this one and all that. So as it is, I think it's about 10 thou under, which is not a lot, but I think if someone was going to bore it and do a nice job of boring it, they would bore it sort of to size, because you're not going to hone 10 thou out of it reliably, or probably you could run a 3/4 reamer through it. I'm reluctant to do that. Yeah. So I would feel more like just basically lapping it until it's perfect and then building, making the piston to fit. That's what's going to happen. So that's, honestly, that's one of the engine projects sitting here in the cupboard that I'd like to get finished. I'd really like to make some progress on this, get it going, and then sit it on a little transporter or something, maybe, once it is going. But it's a bit at a time. I made good progress this week, but I've got at the expense of anything else. Actually got that looking pretty good. Another weekend would probably get some more of these parts made, but I haven't got one coming up. Dismal. It's only 3/4 inch, but I've got a good piston casting. It won't take a lot to get it right. It needs to be a lot better fit than just a turn fit, and I've found from experience that there's no piston rings on this one, so it wants to be spot on if you're going to have enough compression and little enough friction for this thing to actually run. There's no rings on it. It's got oil groove in it. You put Viton O-rings on it, probably, if you're really being thought that was a good idea, and apparently it is a good idea. Hey David, it probably is a good idea, but I'm not convinced that it's a whole lot better. You could probably make a piston ring, but making iron piston rings to fit this that are actually going to do anything except make more friction is, I'm not feeling it's a particularly good thing, necessary thing. I think that the complications in doing that probably outweigh the actual benefits. A Viton rubber O-ring in this is probably the best thing, really. And when I make the piston, if I'm feeling mathematically smart enough to calculate the friction and everything on the O-ring, I might do that, but it sounds like an easy thing to muck up. And probably a couple of oil grooves in it, and it'll run beautifully. Even if it doesn't run for particularly long, it'll run. So, little KW's there on the bench, the Kenneth Wells Schools engine. It's a nice little engine that could do with a run, and I did sort of promise you a run on this tonight, but being inside and stuff, it's not going to happen. We really don't want to fire inside. Yeah, perfect fuel tank. I've got a few bits of copper, and I've got there's probably a smaller piece and a piece of brass as well. I'd like a brass fuel tank on it, maybe. I've got plenty of copper. I think I've got a piece of brass tube about that size somewhere that I was saving for it. I have to find it. So that's where we're at. That's the progress on that. And we have got the fuel mixer done, which I'm pretty pleased with, more or less. 4-stroke this. It's got valves. 4-stroke engine. It's got push rod off the cam, 2-to-1 timing here. And that operates the exhaust valve. And then this one's automatic, like vacuum. Anyway, bigger job than you think, always is. Even this tiny little engine that was half built when I started, I thought, got nothing to lose. I'm going to make a bit of I'm going to do a few jobs on it because I was looking for a model engineering project to get stuck into because I was getting sick of things. And here I am getting to the point that it's starting to look like it might be finished at some point. So I'm pretty happy about that. Thing I've learnt, and probably the thing that I will go back to time and time again when I build a model engine, mount the base on a fixture plate like that, because it's so much easier to set this thing up and machine bits for it. If you want to put 4 holes in here, which I will at some point, that's another job that needs doing when the valves are out of it. So rather than strip them down a few times, I'll get all this ready to go on. I've already bolted all this up and machined this face and this face. Got some actual light, sorry guys. This face and this face is flush. And then we've got a push rod runs on there with a little keeper on each side. Probably. Runs off the camshaft. Still thinking about that. So it needs 2 holes here and 2 holes here for the keepers. So that needs to be done on the cylinder. We need to put all that together and do that. And then the easiest way is to put this on and set this at 30 degrees and just machine this. I do have the block for this that this screws on for pressure testing it and machining the rest. So I may bolt it on that to put in the dividing head and set this up. Don't know yet, one way or the other, but for both those jobs, these valves all got to come out. So I only want to do that one more time, if that, because it's a messing around job to get them to seal again once they go back in. So I think I'm probably going to put a spacer under here so that this actually lines up with the cam. So a little flat spacer here and a little flat spacer there, and then the piece goes over the top with 2 bolts, like 8BA or 10BA or something tiny. And then this will bolt on those 2 bolt holes. And the rocker goes on here, something like that, yeah, like that. So that's your valve timing basically finished. There's a little block here that this lever detaches behind. That goes in there like that. It catches behind there when the governors flick the weights out. And that's what holds the exhaust valve open so it doesn't fire till it slows back down. Makes it hit and miss. I'm sure we all know how those work. But there you go. I've waffled on about that. I got all excited about that again. There's some pretty miserable bits that still need to be made. But anyway, we'll get there. Flywheel's not terrible fit. I don't think they'll come loose. Everything looks pretty good. Still got to make a brass oiler. I bought some oil glass. I've also got a little piece of plastic here, which is probably what I'm going to use for the oiler. Something like that on here. make a little brass oiler. This is only a small prototype engine anyway, so a bigger oiler won't look terrible on it. But still got to sit down and make that at some point. But that's just polycarbonate. That's probably another weekend's work to make the oiler. And if we got all these casts, that's another weekend. And then in the new space, what machinery do I have access to? I've got lathe, I've got a mill. The CVA's out the back all set up. It's pretty good. I have sold the Semtech this last week or so. So I needed some cash for another project, and that comes for small business expenses and things as well. That come through all right. So some of that money eventually will go back into a DRO for the Semtech at some point. That's the thought, but it hasn't happened yet. So at some point I've got to sit down and put a DRO on the CVA because it needs a DRO on it really. So that's that. But this is a Breech engine, and it's one of the last of the original castings that have never been machined, I guess. There's not very many of them left that have still got the B cast in them. I think one of the American companies still makes this engine casting, but I don't think they've got the Paul Breech B in them. But this is definitely their Breech castings. Some point I'll give you a tour, yeah. I was looking at this the other day, and I've got too many projects here, like obviously, but up here, I don't know if you can see that, but in the corner there is the OB Bolt and Clyde pumper engine that I'd like to get finished at some point too, that I've had in the sort of started many years ago, like many years ago. It'd be very nice to get that running. It's a little Scotch crank engine, little Scotch crank pump. Might be a fun job. One day, and castings are now available for that again, so all the bits that are missing. But it's a fiddly little engine, like all pump engines of a miniature size, even full size ones are fiddly. Like even like a duplex pump now, a big one, it's fiddly if you've got to pull it apart and put it back together, and cantankerous, to be honest. So I'm not really looking forward to it, but I'd like at some point to get that going. It'd be a nice little engine. It's a little wobbler there. It's a nice engine. There's a hot air engine. And there's my dynamo, which is a nice little electric motor, basically. Should get that out and give it a run at some point. It runs nicely on 6 volts. And probably if you run it fast enough, it generates some electricity, but I would like to have another go at that because I think I could get better results out of it second time around. And get it down. It's pretty heavy, but it's a nice little project. If I made another one, I would probably integrate it into a household fan or something with gears and everything. It might be a really nice project. Don't know if I'll live long enough, honestly. Unlikely to. But it's all nice to have ideas for engines and plans and things. I've got a full-size engine in bits here. There's a cylinder casting, like a valve chest casting there. There's a valve chest gland there. There's bits of that everywhere. One day, I'd like to get the lathe finished at some point. It's another project. It's seen a bit of use. This weekend it needs a clean again. It was clean Saturday or something, but it needs another clean. Still looking a bit sort of scruffy at the moment, but could do with a clean. If you've got model little lathes, right? Here's a hot tip, and I noticed John Creasy's just bought a set of these. This little solid carbide boring bar. They come in sets, or they come in different sizes from about 3mm, 2mm, 3mm, up to about 6mm, 7mm, something like that. This is quite a big one. I think this is a 5. Come out of China, the solid carbide. Very good boring bar. Don't use anything else much on this lathe now. I've got other boring bars, but this is really good. The only other one I've got that gets a lot of use as far as a carbide bar is this one, which is Solid Rock Machine Shop boring bar, which is fantastic. It's probably one of the best boring bars I've ever used, but getting one of these is a bit more elusive too. And finding inserts for it's a bit tricky. That's not the right insert in there at the moment. So yeah, I also touched on this. I had a heap of these sanding strips. 3D printed that. If anyone wants the STL, that's a very useful thing, I think. It's had a bit of use already. I might print a few more of them when I get time. But I think that's an excellent thing. New belt hangs up pretty well, actually. Pretty happy with the new belt. That one and that one. Very good. I think it's a winner. As for this, there's no real progress. I'd like to make progress, but it means dedicating some time to it. And at the moment, I'm feeling a bit lost. I might not take it off and take it round to our mates and say, hey, look, what would you do as far as a guard goes? See what he thinks, because I've got no idea. Anyway, a guard feels like it's probably next, and to do something with this, and then I've got to do something with this, but I probably need money to do that. I've sort of made a couple of these little swash plates up in 3D printed just to see how they work with probably a rubber, an actual rubber like drive. I think these will be better than universal, so I don't know how much load they're going to take. What's going to happen is I'm going to actually find something that's half decent. See, they only really need that much travel on them. I'm going to find something that's half decent with no backlash and just buy them and fit them in. But still half-heartedly looking for them. Something stripping my paint off here. I'm not happy with that. I don't know what it is, whether it's the oil I'm using. Really not sure what it is, but my paint's coming off the base. Probably that's telling me it's time to add another coat of paint. This has got new paint on it here. And I'd like to do this and the tailstock at some point when I get to that point, and probably the guard on here. Anyway, that's a job. There's a couple of books I'd really like to buy. Like I mentioned before, David mentioned the new LBSC model engineering book by Eddie Castellan, who lives in France, I believe, and I think he sort of spends his summers in France anyway, and the rest of the time in the UK. Eddie's a great guy, and he's written a book, put a lot of work into it, and he lives and breathes his subject, and he's built a lot of curly engines, like a lot of LBSC engines. and he's had help from a lot of other people who built and who knew the man even. So it's a very good book, I think. I'd like that. There's also a new Joby Carter book out, and there's another one coming apparently. So I really need to buy the one that's out before the new one hits. I believe that the new one's going to be an ampersand book. You probably heard it here first. On punctuation and ampersand, which is a fairly interesting subject. It'd be a very interesting book from Joby. So that's there's a couple of books I'd like at some point. Can't see them happening right now. You want a copy of Foundations of Mechanical Accuracy? I think ours is out on the coffee table. Mine's out on our coffee table. James. Pity you're so far away, because it's not a lightweight book by any means, but I have one. I've got a copy of the Moore book. That there's a book on locomotive efficiency and stuff, which is all over my head. But Mark, if he gets a copy, he might lend it to me. It's another very good paper that's been written. I saw Mark sent through a copy or news flash or update on that, on feed water treatment and the effects of poor feed water, etc. That would be a very, very good book. A very good book to get hold of. I wouldn't mind a copy of that. I think Mark had some more details. If anyone else is really interested, I'm probably going to have a go at getting a copy, but we'll see. It looked a little bit in depth as well, but feed water and its associated problems and cures and things, it's a subject I'm a bit interested in. Apart from that, that's where we're at. If we run out of projects, there's still that guard that I want to put on there. That's sort of something I'd like to do every time I use this lathe. I think I should have that guard on there, on that hole. Hasn't happened yet. Anyway, take care, Kevin. I'm out anyway, so we're way over time. Thanks for tuning in. I'd like to see some pictures of your engine at some point. Yeah, I've just prattled on about nothing. I'm sorry, guys. Don't think you've actually achieved or learnt anything. I've just sort of reiterated what I've actually not done this week as a whole hour based on the explanation of the things I didn't get done, which is kind of a bit strange, but it's how we work here. Anyway, be kind to each other. I might be out here. I think we're done. Look for updates on this eventually. I've made some progress. There might not be any for a couple of weeks, but got to take that crankshaft to Dan's and pick up some more bits on the way, or some more bits on the way home for next week. If I get a chance, I'd get these pieces cast. Don't know about that. And what else I've got to do? Thanks, William. What else have I got to do this weekend? I've got to do some actual artwork, so I probably should do some actual painting stuff that needs money. So we've got 13 likes and 12 viewers. That's a good effort. Thanks, guys. That's where we're at. But every single part you make on this, you've got to fit it up and then take it apart and fit it up and take it apart and fit it up and take it apart. Anyway. It might pop up chains. Anyway, I'm out. Thanks, guys. Catch you around. I might be on Discord for a minute and I might be on Facebook for a minute if anyone wants to chat. And be kind to each other.